Here we are today. I want to welcome Amelia Paro. She's an award-winning speaker, channel chief, cybersecurity advisor, channel enablement, and sales expert. Currently, she's the director of channel development at Kaseya. Amelia, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I never realized how much of a mouthful that entire LinkedIn bio is until you just had to stumble through it. I apologize.
No, it's impressive. And you're a fellow Arizonan and Phoenician area person, but you don't spend a lot of time at home. You're mostly on the road. Is that right?
I am definitely. So my role, I'm blessed because I get paid to travel and meet new people, make new friends, and talk about technology, which I don't usually come across as it, but I'm kind of a nerd. So, but I'm a nerd in a way that I'm not real super technical. I think it's fantastic. I love the way technology can make things. Automation is for efficiency and make us all better and do things quicker and easier and do more with less. So I love that aspect of technology. But if you want to talk to me like speeds and feeds and widgets and gidgets, I'm not your girl because I will find that happy place, which is also what made me great at the role that was my previous role. So short little history about me. Been in the technology space for way longer than I look, maybe depending on the day. But I started out my technology career doing phone sales for some of the very biggest technology companies, back in the day. So it was very like Wolf of Wall Street, boiler room, type of, phone sales. But I was doing sales for like SAP and Oracle, which if you're familiar with tech are huge ERP. I mean, these are massive $1 million, 9 to 12 month sales processes. So very painful. And I was doing that, and that's how I cut my teeth on technology. And then I moved from doing that to like Lenovo, and then I started doing recruitment for, I'm totally going to date myself now. If anybody out there remembers the Microsoft Roadshow buses when they were promoting XP. Yes, this was long before, was it the Microsoft, what was that, the PlayStation? No, Microsoft, whatever their
Xbox.
games. Xbox, thank you. My son would be so ashamed right now. Yeah, so it was before they came out with the Xbox. So that was part of the thing. This bus would go around and they would show off, the new Microsoft Windows operating system and the gaming system. And they talked about the future of Surface, the touch screens, the future, right? So that was very exciting. So that got me interested in like events and kind of event recruitment. Well, then, the bubble burst, 2009, the economy tanked, and none of that was happening. So I moved into like more of a market research sort of role where I would be devising the survey questionnaires, survey instruments. I would be calling CEOs of other small businesses on behalf of like the bigger organizations that were like, oh my God, we got to pivot and do other things. And so I started having conversations with business owners, and it was really a very interesting role for me, but I kind of got burned out of the whole corporate thing, right? The whole corporate environment. And I had a friend of a friend who was moving from New York to Arizona, and he was going to be starting his own IT consulting firm. And he asked me if I wanted to come help him with this business, to grow this business, start this business with him. And I'm like, sure, why not? How hard could it be, right? Famous last words to any small business owner. So there was 3 of us. I was employee number 3. It was the CEO and another technical guy, and then me. And I was responsible for everything that wasn't QuickBooks or technology. So I was like den mother, I was janitor, I was HR, I was office manager. And most importantly, sales and marketing. And again, if as a small business owner, you know that once you get to a certain point, one person can't be doing all of that. Mm-hmm. But I did it first. So, fast forward a couple of years, working to grow this small business. We had no customers, right? We had a few that were in New York, but no customers in Arizona. So New York guy, New York attitude, Arizona, some challenges there. It took me the first year and a half to get him to not wear 3-piece suits when he would go on client meetings. So lots of things that we had to learn, lots of lessons, both good and bad. So I was like coming from, a very structured corporate environment where we had budget, where we had sales processes, where we had, benchmarks and metrics and commission structures and, all these different things related around sales. Well, this new business, we didn't. So I was like, okay, so wow, I need to get very creative on how we're going to get new customers, get attention, get out there, get noticed, start talking to people with no budget. So it turned into like this guerrilla marketing shoestring kind of experiment. And me being very, very resourceful and really leveraging relationships that we made and that we had to build. So the first one we started out with would be was the Chamber of Commerce, right? So we would do the ribbon cuttings and we would go to like the BNI meetings and all of these things. And I remember first time we did, and I walked up, everybody gets said, go around and introduce themselves. And I said, hi, I'm Amelia Paro. I'm with Collaborators Technology Partners, and we're managed service providers. And people be like, huh? What's that? You're a what? So first lesson, industry lingo, right? Got to explain it in a way that other people understand. We're an outsourced IT service provider. Oh, computers. Yeah. A little bit more than that, but yeah, computers. We fix computers. And then I would start to kind of go into it and I could just see, people that the eyes would glaze over and they're like, oh, I think my friend is calling me, And I'm like, okay, so I'm not very technical. And at first my concern was, okay, it's a technology firm. So I got to know all this stuff. I got to know it in and out, learning it like I used to when I was doing campaigns for SAP and Oracle. And when you're on those type of campaigns, those sales, you don't deviate. It's not a whole different, depends on your environment kind of conversation. This is what it does. This is who it helps. This is, how much. Well, none of that, all of that goes out the window when you're doing IT consulting, right? So people ask, oh, okay, how much do you charge? Well, so it kind of depends.
It depends.
It depends. Can you give me an estimate? No, because it depends on what you need, what you have, how many people, how many devices, ad nauseum. So I learned very quickly, okay, so first thing is I need to not overcomplicate the sales process. And secondly, we need to start talking to people and getting out there and engaging in the community. So we were like, okay, let's do some seminars or back then they were called seminars, right? Super boring. Nobody wants to go to that. Sounds like something you had to sit through in college, right? So we planned this whole big seminar. It was on a Tuesday, middle of the day. We sent out a bunch of invites. We purchased a list, the whole 9 yards. Total bust, right? Because, oh, hi, come to our seminar. Gee, that sounds exciting. I'm going to take time out of my work day to go to that. Yeah, no. So what we ended up doing is we brainstormed and we're like, okay, so technology, people don't get it, right? It's boring, it's dry, it's dull. Things have, changed a little bit now. It's exciting and scary. But, back then it was really like, oh, this is boring. So we're like, okay, technology, boring, complicated. Most people don't understand. What do people like and can understand? Food, right? Cocktails. What do people like to do after work? They like to go to happy hour and have chips and salsa and drink margaritas, right? So, okay, so let's combine things that people like with something they don't like. So, again, so the first one that we did is we did cocktails in the cloud. A little kind of subjective, right? If you're not familiar with what cloud means in technology. So we got people to come to that just because they were curious about what the heck we were talking about. And we're like, hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. And then from there, we started building on that. The next one was bagels and breaches. And by that time, right, cybersecurity was really starting to get hot. And the big breaches were happening, and it was starting to become more and more mainstream. So the people that we got to come to Cocktails in the Cloud, we invited them, and we also told them, bring a friend, right? Free drinks, free food. We did like bagels and lox and Bloody Marys and mimosas on a Friday mid-morning. Yes, it was a work day, but it was also Friday, so it was a little easier to get people to come, and it was a bigger success than the last one. So we just kept building on that, and in and amongst that, we learned to kind of refine our messaging and what we would talk about. And in the beginning, we would go to client meetings, and I would literally have to kick my CEO under the table. I'm like, stop talking. You are talking us out of this sale. We lost them like 45 minutes ago. But that's what he loves, right? He loves the speeds and the feeds and the widgets and the gadgets, and that's wonderful. And IT professionals, the men and women, y'all are wicked smart, right? I'm not that technical, which ended up being a good thing. So I knew enough to be dangerous, and I could, and I say this with the absolute most love, I could interpret the nerd speak so that people could understand.
Yeah.
It was an interesting journey, and a couple of things fell into place along the way. We used to go to big industry events. We would go to, here in Arizona, the Arizona like the Tech Center. That's it's like technology and science. So they would do events. We would do industry events. We also ended up connecting with some charities. Now, here's a great tip, things to do. So anybody who's a golfer, if you love to golf, this is a great way to promote your business in a fun and really relaxed way. So who golfs, right? Again, women, forgive me, it's mostly men. That's changing more now, thank God, but mostly men, right? And they're, and I'm generalizing here, but it's business owners, and it's doctors, lawyers, and that type. And especially at charities. So at charities and charity golf tournaments, combine two things, right? So you've got people that are affluent enough that they are there to donate lots of money to whatever charity. So we used to sponsor a hole at a golf tournament. We would set up a tent, and mind you, this was in Phoenix. So we would set up a tent. We'd have little misters. I mean, we went all out, right? We would have misters. We would have like bottled water in coolers. We would also have, like little like beer options, booze options, and a table. And as people would come up and tee up, and God forgive me, I'm not a golfer, so my golf lingo is very limited. They would tee up, and as they were waiting to tee up to the hole and shoot the ball, we would talk to them. We would talk to them, hey, you local, What do you do for business? What's your role? We're sponsoring this golf hole, just to introduce ourselves to the community. We provide outsourced IT services. We make sure that your computers stay working, your internet stays up, your printer prints when it's supposed to, your phones, your VoIP doesn't sound like you're calling on a tin can with a string. I just, any of that sound like a struggle for you? And people, they got that part, right? Like, oh my God, my phone service is horrible. It keeps dropping calls. I can't do, video conferencing. So just started having those conversations in a very non-threatening way. So that actually became one of our best, lead generation tactics, was to do sponsor a hole at a golf tournament. But yeah, so, lots of different things. And we are blessed here in the Valley, in the Phoenix Valley, because we don't really have to deal with a lot of cold weather. So really, 12 months out of the year, we can do stuff outside. Unless we live here and then we start whining and wearing parkas when it drops below 80.
Totally. Well, I think that's a slew of great ideas. And I love talking about really early stage companies, because when you have to start with nothing, you have to be resourceful, like you're talking about. And I think you really came up with a genius formula: something people like plus something people aren't that interested in, or it's harder to get them excited about it, or it's harder for them to understand how it could benefit them. So I think it's amazing, the power of that simple combination. What I want to call back on is, you did a variety of events and you switched it up. So you kept that formula, but you switched out what might be attracting people each time. And I think novelty is something that is really, really underrated. How we're hardwired as human beings is to like new things. Everything that we see on a regular basis becomes part of our autopilot, and it's the new things that stand out to us. And that's something we do at Incentive Pilot with our games and contests, is make sure that people are playing something or experiencing something new, because the power of new is incredibly powerful. So I think it was very smart of you to keep switching it up and trying new things. I'm curious, I appreciate you sharing that the first couple events were a flop. Anybody getting started is going to have those flop experiences. We've had events that are a flop, high expectations of things that didn't happen. How do you bounce back from a flop and learn from it, rather than letting it take you down a road of, man, we can't find that fit, or we're not getting traction?
Yeah, and that's, I don't want to sugarcoat it too much. We went through a lot of things that did not work. Many things that did not work before we figured out what did. We tried outsourcing, sales. We tried hiring a couple of college kids to come in when we had no sales process and no telemarketing script. And we're just like, okay, here's a phone book, get sales.
Good luck. Yeah.
Good luck. What? You're not getting sales? We joined, industry specific sales and marketing groups, right? And bought into their program. And again, it all came down to, we ended up taking pieces of things that we learned along the way. Most importantly, what didn't work for us, and then plugging in the things that did work. And the best piece of advice that I can give you is the spaghetti on the wall methodology does not, consistency, especially in marketing. And that's a very, very hard pill to swallow for most small businesses, because it's so intangible and there's no immediate ROI that you can see. In fact, it takes a long stinking time to see any sort of ROI, especially from digital marketing. At least when you're, stuffing envelopes, you can mail them out and then call people and be like, hey, did you get our mailer? And they'd be like, no, never call me again. Or they would be like, oh yeah, that was awesome. At least you could get some sort of immediate ROI. So those intangible long-term things were very, very hard for us at first. We were like, well, this sucks. We've been doing this for a whole month and we haven't gotten nothing. Nobody's come to our websites. We're not getting any inbound calls. Oh my God, right? Marketing sucks. Doesn't work. did that with the outsourcing the sales thing, right? We're like, oh my God, this is crazy expensive. They're not getting any traction. That's it. We're quitting, right? So after several short-term failed attempts at the spaghetti of the wall methodology, we're like, okay. So we really had to sit down and do like a post-mortem, because the business was kind of at that place where like we are struggling. We need to like bring new revenue in here, because we are losing one client away from not being in business anymore. And that's a very difficult place for a business owner to be, right? Because then you start accepting like crap from those clients that you should have fired a long time ago, but you didn't. So you continue to be like, let them nickel and dime you and scope creep, because you cannot afford to lose them. So it was a very, rough place for us to be. So what we ended up doing is we sat down, we're like, okay, we literally took 2 days in a room with a whiteboard, and we just were whiteboarding everything, ideas, what works, what doesn't, what can we combine that we know works into something that will help us get more attention. And that was how the bagels and breeches and cocktails in the cloud came about, and then the golf tournaments. But yeah, it was, I don't want to, disillusion anyone that it's going to be easy and it's going to be like, oh, there's your easy button. All I can do is share my experience and give you some tips and tricks that work for us. So, you can use my blood, sweat, and tears to help you maybe avoid some of that.
Yeah, the communal blood, sweat, and tears is something I think we all need as marketers, especially starting for a product or a brand from zero. It does take a long time. And as someone that's relatively new to marketing, the hardest pill for me to swallow was you can't control when people are ready to buy. You just have to be there when they are ready to buy. And that's a huge shift in mindset and understanding of how things work. And it really says a lot about our awareness as people who get marketed to. We think we see an ad and take a call to action, but in reality, that's probably the 30th time we've seen that ad, and maybe the 130th touch point we've had that with that brand. And once you are on the other side of that and really feel what that means, your thinking doesn't change. But I appreciate that description, and I want to make sure we call out that you guys did the post-mortem. That's a missing piece from a lot of people's playbook. It's like, that didn't work, next thing, that didn't work, next thing. But you can really learn a lot by analyzing what didn't work and just talking through with your team, collaborating on everybody's assessment. Because if you don't take that time, I'm going to make an assessment of why it failed. You're going to make an assessment of why it failed, and we're going to move on in different directions for different reasons. But until we have an alignment on, I think that worked because of this, or I think that didn't work because of this, we're really not improving our odds of succeeding next time.
Yeah. And that also, kind of plays into having the right people on your team. And that's not always going to happen. So hiring for fits, like cultural fit within your organization, is way better than just having bodies and seats. I mean, a million times better. So, whereas we tried that bodies and seats and it didn't work, right? When we finally got to that core team, that's how we were also able to have those postmortems. And it wasn't anybody's fault. We were all just like, okay, so that didn't work. So what didn't work about it? Let's go through it. We just looked at it like it was like a science experiment that we were doing. No, it wasn't right. It wasn't wrong. We just know that that round piece did not fit in that square hole for us. So let's go find something else that we might think be that would fit and work for us. So that kind of became that the culture of we're all a team. We're all, are invested in growing this business because it benefits all of us. The more money we make, the more money we make. So, right. And so, that became one of the cornerstone foundations of this business as we grew it, is making sure that the individuals that we brought in were the right fit. And that's, that's a whole other conversation, staffing and hiring. And that's, another very painful, but can also be very rewarding process. But it does pay dividends in the end. And I hear it all the time. I work with IT service providers, small managed services providers, right? MSPs, small, medium-sized MSPs, but that they're all business owners. And we all struggle with finding people, investing in them, and worrying if they're just gonna, get paid for the first 30 days while they're ramping up, collecting a check and waiting for the next best thing. Yeah, it's a challenge, but kind of going back to, being able to do that postmortem was because of the family team that we had. Baby steps and the evolution of growing a business. And we did have some bad hires. Man, we had a couple of bad hires that one guy almost got us in trouble because he went to a job site and was not behaving professionally. It was awful. And then, you hire kids and they're just there to collect checks and whatnot. But so if you've got good people, invest in them because they'll pay dividends. And if your employees, they know when you are investing in them and they're not going to leave because they know that staying is way better than going somewhere else where that job, they may get paid more, maybe, but it's going to be a bad work environment.
No, good thoughts. The people are everything. It's at the core of everything. So definitely your most important asset and the ability to have those conversations, to be able to tell the truth and disagree respectfully and find conclusions together. That's absolutely everything. You used the word experiment when it came to marketing, and I think that is the name of the game. Everything we do is an experiment. Let's see how this goes. What can we learn and go from there? Because everything is an iteration. And if you look at things that way, it's a lot easier to move on to the next thing and not get hung up on what doesn't work. So that was earlier in your marketing career. Tell us a little bit about how you use what you learned there, as you move forward and in your role now. What are the things you do to get eyeballs from human beings on technology that maybe isn't that exciting, maybe isn't what people want to talk about, or what their eyes light up about when you interface with them?
That's a great story. And that's actually part of my continuing story that I talk about to my future partners, my potential clients now. So, and cybersecurity was really getting hot and the awareness was growing. I was at an industry conference with our CEO, and we had seen this. It was like a boardroom presentation type of thing, and this company came in and they handed us each. There's like 12 of us in this boardroom, and they handed us an envelope. Each one of us an envelope before they went up and stood in front of right next to the presentation. The presentation screen. What is that thing called? So we're like, okay, all right, I'm intrigued. This is cool. Wow me, right? Because again, sales presentations for technology is an absolute snore fest. So they say, okay, we've given every one of you an envelope. I want you to open it up, and there's a list. You'll see a list of all the companies that you represent in this room, your company's name, and then there's going to be a number next to your company. Now, I want you to hang on to that. Now, find your company, get your number, hang on to that, and we'll explain what that means after the presentation. So already we're like, okay, now I'm interested. What is this? All right, you got me. Carry on, paying attention now. And they went on to talk about the dark web and the evolution of, the World Wide Web and this entire component of it that had, previously really not been known, especially not, outside of the government sector. And the dark web was really this massive collection of criminals, and crime has moved more out of the physical and into the virtual. And the dark web is where all of like people's data, like their emails and their passwords, anytime they get compromised, they're sold so that other criminals can use them to target individuals and businesses for cyber crimes, right? And they started going in and introducing us to, well, this is how, when you go on to, like, we all use these third-party websites, right? So yes, you've got security on your network. That's good. Stay with that, right? But think about the third-party websites that you use to get your work done. Social media sites, right? Facebook. How many of you has a company Facebook page? Well, you got to have a personal Facebook page that you can tie your company Facebook page to, right? Can't have one without the other. And that is a personal email. So how many of you, banking sites, right? CRMs, like MyFitnessPal, right? Dieting sites, all these different sites that you use that you have to create an account. So the challenge, the big problem now is that because there's so many different sites and we've got all these different sites we got to go to and create an account, we're using our work email because it's just easier, right? I pay more attention to my work email than I do my personal. If it's important, I want it to go to my work email because then I'll actually pay attention and get it. Right? But because there's all these sites, people are using the same password, right? I love my dog 1, I love my dog 2, I love my dog 3. Well, criminals know that. So instead of taking the time and effort to hack into your company's network, which they know is probably going to have some security on it and is going to be more secure than these MyFitnessPals, or right, these regular random sites online. They'll just go hack these less secure sites, and now they've got your work email and more than likely the same password that you use to log into the network. So now they can just walk through the door. And they said, and we've got a tool that you can plug in a company's website, just their website, into the tool, hit search, and it'll run a report and show you right then and there every employee's email that have been compromised, all the passwords that have been compromised, and all the sites that they are going to that have been breached. And we were just like, jaw hit the table, where I was like, oh my God, that tool. And I'm like elbowing him. I'm like, we got to get this. Imagine what this would do to the conversations that I'm having, that I'm struggling with, trying to get our clients to really grasp the level of risk to their business, because all they see on the news is, Targets and Experian and all the big ones. So they didn't think that they were, a target. And then they said, okay, so now that number next to your company name, we ran a report before we came in this room, and this is how many compromises your MSP business has right now today, right? We were like, oh my God, that like emotional hook was like kind of the missing piece for talking to small businesses about cyber risk, right? So that company was ID Agent. And we became an ID Agent customer, and using their prospecting tool in that same manner with our seminars, with our lunch and learns, we would do that same thing. We would pass out an envelope. We would have a little note card with a number on it. And funny thing, like we would get people in the room and some would have like, triple digits or more. And if you don't preface it, they'd be like, oh, yeah, my number's bigger than yours. Yeah. My number's bigger than yours. And then you tell them and they're like, we would do that at business presentations for an actual, discovery presentation for a client. And I had situations where the CFO we would show them all the compromises and be like, hold on, get up out of the meeting, go into the bullpen and scream at people to change their bleeping passwords, right? Like some really emotional responses to this. And we were closing business left and right. And that helped us really skyrocket our year over year growth. So now we were like, doubling our growth year over year. We went from like $500,000 in annual revenue to close to 2 in like 2 years. So, I mean, really significant growth. And amongst that growth, as we started getting more clients, we had to hire more techs, had more people, more marketing, and I got to a point where I was really, really stretched thin, doing both sales and marketing, and janitor and den mother, and we were at a place now where we could hire and outsource marketing. I oversaw that, got them set up so that they knew what they were doing, the messaging, the content that we wanted to put out. We worked with our vendors to kind of help curate that content. So the marketing company wasn't completely going blind, because then we would just have to review it anyways. Because IT people are notoriously picky about the technology that's being described that they're putting out. And there became an opportunity for ID Agent was hiring for someone to help them grow their customer base. So go and talk to other MSPs, baby MSPs, like brand new, just starting out, very few clients, only 3 people, something like that, help other MSPs see the same growth and success when selling cybersecurity services that we had. And I was just like, I can really, this is something that is a good fit for me. And I'm still very close with the MSP that I work for, the CEO, lots of stuff that we still do together, but now I get to help other MSPs. So that was kind of the progression of my journey, right? I was an MSP, then I got to start helping other MSPs. And I didn't really realize when I joined ID Agent, they're like, okay, so you're going to be on stage and you're going to be talking about ID Agent, and there's 300 people in this room. Go. And I'm like, oh boy. Okay, this is going to be fun. Here we go. I'm only sweaty a little. Yeah, it was definitely a switch.
Well, I think your journey, really mirrors the importance of the marketing story in general. So you learned how to get eyeballs, throwing these events that combine something, interesting with something that might be a little drier, and then through this transformative experience of making the results tangible, making people feel how exposed they are. And that's the feeling that's going to close the deal. We have similar experience in our product. You can talk to people who run big programs and send a lot of gift cards and prizes, and they don't realize how much pain and suffering they go through dealing with contests of thousands of people. But they get into Incentive Pilot and they send, thousands of gift cards with a few clicks, and they're like, oh my God, this is going to save me weeks and weeks and weeks. So I think that simple formula, the ability to experiment, the ability to do those retrospectives and making the results tangible, all of those are awesome tips. I really appreciate you sharing, Amelia. We are reaching the end of our time here. I was hoping...
It always goes by so fast. It
does. I was hoping you would humor us and play a little tap to flap. If you could open up the link and share your screen, I would love to get you onto the scoreboard.
I love the early Super Mario Brothers kind of look to it.
Yep, it's
again, totally dating myself. Zelda, like Duck Hunt. Oh, Duck Hunt. Yeah. All right.
You have 1 minute here, Amelia. As soon as you get a game over, just keep clicking and try again. We're going to take your highest score from the minute, and it's automatically recorded. So when you're ready, just start clicking. I'm going to start the timer. All right, she's off to the races.
Yep. Oh yeah, great, first time. All right, here we go.
And I didn't get a chance to look back at Miles. We're gonna have to see which of you two are gonna score higher. But I think
he's probably gonna win.
It's gonna be you.
It's not looking good. I had beginner's luck when I was practicing. All right.
Got about 30 seconds here. Maybe slow it down a little bit and see. Oh, there we go. You're on the board at least.
Yes. That's right.
10 more seconds. Here we go. Oh, one more life. If you can keep it going, we'll... Another one? Yep.
Another
All
one.
right. Well, that's the end of the minute. Thank you for playing, and thank you so much for coming on. Amelia, if people want to learn more about ID Agent or want to get in touch with you because of the stuff you talked about today, what's the best way to find you?
So my email is aparo, aparo @idagent.com. Or I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. You can go on LinkedIn, or I'm all over Facebook.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I hope you join us in the future to share some more stories about getting those enterprise eyeballs.
Awesome. Thanks so much. It was wonderful talking to all of you. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend and stay cyber safe.
Stay cyber safe.